Am I the only one I know? Waging my wars behind my face and above my throat. Shadows will scream that I'm alone. Oh,
I've got a migraine, and my pain will range from up, down, and sideways. Thank God it's Friday, cause Fridays will always be better than Sundays, cause Sundays are my suicide days. I don't know why they always seem so dismal. Thunderstorms, clouds, snow, and a slight drizzle.
What's up guys, my name is Lucas, and today I'm going to bring you my very first After Effects tutorial. It's going to be over a minimally themed audio spectrum using all internal effects. In Adobe After Effects you don't need a trap code sound key or anything like that. It's going to be very basic, but hopefully you'll get to learn a few things by watching this tutorial. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to import our sound footage. So I'm going to do that by hitting Command-I on my keyboard, and then you can select whatever soundtrack you want. In my case I'm going to be doing Migraine by 21 Pilots. Just so you know, I don't own this song, I have no rights to it. I'm just using this for the purpose of the video. All credit goes to them. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new composition. I'm going to name it Audio Spectrum. And then if your settings are not already like this, I'm going to have mine at 1920 by 1080p. You can do it at whatever resolution you want, it doesn't really matter. And then the background color won't matter at all. So when you're done with this, click OK. Then you're going to drag your audio footage into your timeline, right click, make a new solid. And again, make comp size if it's already not, but again it's going to be 1920 by 1080. And then I'm going to just name this BG for background. So just because a flat background like this is kind of boring, I'm going to get a simple effect called gradient ramp. So type gradient ramp in your effects, drag and drop that onto your background. The next thing you're going to do is, I do like the gray that Adobe has on their UIs, so I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, select both of those, select the lower one, make it just a little bit darker, not a lot, just a little bit darker. That way you have a little bit of a gradient there and it gives it some different colors to look at. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to create another new solid, and we're going to name this one Audio Spectrum. Again, the same settings, color doesn't matter, and then select Enter. In the Audio Spectrum layer, we're going to add an effect called Audio Spectrum. So click and drag that onto that layer. The first thing you're going to notice is that there's going to be these purple dots everywhere. If you zoom in, purple dots. And that's basically when you adjust your settings, it's going to change the bars and everything to act accordingly to the frequency. If you don't know, all songs have frequency. It's kind of a measure of the highs and lows of the songs. So the first thing you're going to want to do is select Audio Layer, switch that to whatever soundtrack you have in there. Again, mine's Migraine by 21 Pilots. So now if you scrub through your timeline, you'll see that at this point it is slight, but it does make those dots turn into little lines now. So the next thing you're going to want to do, I do have this handy website that I will link in the description. It's called Teach Me Audio, and basically it's got a little bit of an explainer for each of the range. Here's sub bass, 20 to 60 hertz, bass is 60 to 250 hertz. So basically you want to just play around with your audio, and it's kind of a personal opinion if you want your audio spectrum to show the bass or the high, treble, whatever parts of the ranges you want to showcase. So in my case, I have already done this, just kind of my personal preference of where I want it. I'm going to start mine at 250, the start frequency, and then my end frequency is going to be 500. And then this part, I'm going to switch my bands to about, my frequency bands, probably about 46. Let's go 46. I'm going to switch this, the audio duration stays there, that doesn't matter. My height, I'm going to put to 5,500, select Enter. And that's basically going to be how tall the bands can be. And now, if you see, it's symmetrical across kind of the middle axis. And in order to change that, you go down to these side options right here. I'm going to select side A, just like that. There are some other options you can have here. I'm going to keep mine on digital, but I'll show you what the other ones are. Analog lines, it's kind of like a heart rate monitor. And analog dots, it just makes the dots. Instead of the bars, it would just be the peak as a dot. I'm not a huge fan of that one, and for the tutorial I'm just going to keep mine at digital. With these colors, you can select two. The inside and the outside of the color. I'm just going to select an orangish color, like that one. I'm just going to make the second one the same because I want them to be kind of flat. The next thing I'm going to do is change the thickness. I'm going to put this to about 28, and then you're going to notice that it's really fuzzy, and that's going to be softness right here. So I'm going to change it down to 0, and that's going to get them really crisp, and you're not going to have any opacity changes, and it's going to look, in my opinion, a lot better. So the next thing we're going to do, now that we have our audio spectrum, it is going to be reacting to the audio. So as you scrub through, you can press pause, or excuse me, press the space bar, and that will start playing and pause it with audio. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-compose this by right-clicking on Audio Spectrum, Pre-Compose, and then I'm just going to name this Audio Spectrum again. Actually, no, we have Audio Spectrum already. So Audio Spectrum 2. You can get a little creative with your names, do whatever. It's probably not the best to have Audio Spectrum and Audio Spectrum 2, but for the sake of this tutorial, it will work. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to an effect. In design right now, there's a popular trend with flat shadows and kind of flat design. In order to replicate that, I'm going to use an effect called CC Radial Fast Blur. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to drop that onto Audio Spectrum, and then it's going to make it kind of the thing we were trying to get rid of earlier, the softness, how it's blurred a little bit, but it is going to do what we want in the end. So I'm going to select the center tool, and that's basically going to change the angle. I'm going to go down here, and as you can see, it did change the angle of where that blur is located. And now I'm going to crank up the amount. If you hold Shift on your keyboard, it will make it go up at a faster rate, and I believe it's Control. Yep, Control goes at a slower rate. So I'm just going to hold Shift, go all the way up. Zoom, you can mess with this. I liked brightest just because it made the colors a little bit sharper so I could see right away. I'm not sure if it does make a huge difference for the end goal, but I had it at brightest when I was kind of messing around with this earlier. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get an effect called Fill. Drop that underneath the Radial Fast Blur. I'm going to make this, I'm just going to make this black. Then the next effect we need is CC Composite. Drop this under the fill. And actually, we did forget one effect. Not you, I did. So that effect is going to be called Matte Choker. So I'm going to put this in between the fill and the CC Composite. You're going to turn the geometric softness all the way down. Geometric softness is all the way down. And then the choke one, you're actually going to change in the negative direction. Just so you guys know, I'm not the one who discovered this. I believe it was Vincent Nguyen from Creative Dojo. You guys should go check him out. He does a lot of great tutorials that could probably help you a little bit more than me at this point. So as you can see now it does make these kind of flat shadows. And what this is going to do now, we're going to duplicate the audio spectrum and then delete all the other effects. Delete Matte Choker and delete CC Composite. And that way, when it scrolls through, you're basically going to have the audio spectrum on top of that shadow. And it's just going to make it look a little bit nicer. It's going to react, if you can see along the edges, like right there. As the audio spectrum goes up, it will change the shape of the shadow as well, which just makes it look nice. It's reactive. And again, it looks nice. So the next thing we're going to do, and it's just kind of for decoration, I'm going to take a shape tool. I'm going to go about the start of one side, go to the other. Doesn't really matter. Right now I have it set to a stroke, but I don't care. It's just being a shape. So I can change the fill to a solid color and then change it to that, but I'm just going to keep it at no fill at the moment and then crank the stroke up. So it's kind of got this rectangle. It is going to be stroked, but again, I don't really care for the sake of this tutorial. So I'm just going to make sure that the color matches exactly to the orange that I have on the color spectrum. You can either use the hex codes or you can just use the eyedropper tool, whatever works for you. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to take my text tool, I'm going to type in audio spectrum. I'm going to center this. If you want to center something, you can go to Window and then Align. And then these tools right here, these are going to help you align it. This one is horizontal center alignment. It's going to align it horizontally, obviously. This one will be vertically. I do not want it vertically, however, so I'm just going to hold Shift, and that's going to keep it constrained to the axis. And then I'm going to drag down to where I want it. And now, when you press pause again, you'll be able to listen to it with the audio. But basically you have this audio spectrum that reacts to the song. You got some decoration. There's some other things you can do with this, spice it up. You can add multiple audio spectrums, different shapes. And one thing you also can do, if you take, so let's go back to the audio spectrum. You can actually take either a mask or a shape. It works better with masks. I'm just gonna make a circle right here. This isn't going to be very pretty because we have the shadow and everything else left. But I'm gonna switch this to none. That way it doesn't cut our mask off at all. And then I'm gonna go to the audio layer, go to path, select mask 1, and basically and we probably want to switch this from side A to side B just so it's pointed on the outside now. And basically it's going to make a ring audio spectrum. So you can play around with shapes, get creative, make all sorts of different shapes and paths and things, and then slap an audio spectrum onto it. Again, the shadow is not with it at the moment. That'd look a little bit funny with the flat shadow since the audio spectrum is going in all directions and the flat shadow is pointing in a certain direction. So maybe try a couple different things. Maybe put the center right in the middle and have it going outward. Whatever works for you. So I hope you guys learned something from this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment below. And hopefully bear with me and my tutorials will get a little bit better. I know this is the first one, so it will be a bit rough. But if you guys have any questions, just hit me up in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like and then subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, also again, just leave them in the comments. Thank you guys and see you next time.